wrapping up and getting some food, but I just wanted to kind of get started so we have plenty of time. This is Natalia Woolley, and she graduated from the MS program here in June 2015. She interned for the American Evaluation Association, and she'll tell you a little bit more about that. And this is her first year in the doctoral program here. So she is coming to us because her preceptors voiced that they would like their student interns for the summer to be able to do some analysis in Excel. Reason being, a lot of smaller nonprofits and even some larger ones don't have a budget to be able to run larger statistical analysis on different programs. One, two, sometimes that's a little complex, I know, in terms of community health sciences after completing your first year. And so this should give you some insight into running some of those analyses for them and for your future projects.
Great, thank you. So how many of you have worked with Excel day in and day out for, a year or two?
How deeply? I mean, I've done spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets, okay. But like data analysis, like summarize, okay. So I think I'm probably like a good person to help you guys because when I graduated from undergrad, I just had no idea about Excel. And I've been working with Excel for 5 years, and I feel like I just know enough to get by and to still be curious and to continue to learn. And so I think this is what we'll cover today, just enough to build this foundation. So first things first, you got to accept that Excel can be your best friend, your worst enemy. After working with it for 6 years, I feel like I've developed a healthy paranoia to always triple check my work, and I think that's the best that I can shoot for. So this exercise that I sent out, the table for you guys, is trying to incorporate these 3 big pictures, which is data input, the analysis part, and then the reporting. And so within the data input, we'll try to make sure that we can minimize data error input and to also catch any more terrible mistakes, how to merge tables, and then within the analysis, summarizing the tables, mainly using pivot tables and graphing, and then some checks before you report, you print your report, or you even circulate your Excel sheet. So let's move on to the Excel table. All right. So if you guys have Excel on your computer and you want to follow and try to do the exercise as well, it would be great. And if you have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand. So you were, let's say, and this is all made up data that I created, and so you're given a data set of a student survey. And the data contains some demographic information, academic performance, and risk behaviors. So the first thing is if you do have a code book in your data set, get familiar with it, understand what are the variables that you have, what are the type of variables, how the questions were asked, and how these values were coded. So in this table here, we have the student's ID. We know that they range from 1 to 25, so this is like just my overall sample. It's 25 people. Their age, their gender, what was their GPA, and I just added, it's between 2 and 4, and just round numbers to avoid any, additional complication. And questions about, questions about whether they have ever drank alcohol, and it was coded 1 for yes and 2 for no. And the same thing for cigarettes. So 1 means yes and 2 means no. And this is your master table, and this is your ID, your age, your GPA, drinking is empty, smoke, and gender. So these are all the variables that you have. So the first question is asking to fill the master sheet with the gender information listed on sheet number 4. And I put a picture here because unfortunately, not always when you need to enter data, the data format is going to be nice and simple that you can just copy and paste it. Sometimes it's going to be just a physical paper that you need to go over and input the data. So this is just some ways that you can organize your spreadsheet that when you're inputting this data, you're minimizing, keep the color scheme, sure. And you're minimizing scrolling through back and forth. You're minimizing open multiple windows. So this is what I would do. I always like to play with the hide function. So you can see that now it looks very similar to this tab, and it makes it easier so you're not scrolling back and forth. Another thing that you can do is freeze panes. Has anybody heard about freezing panes? Okay, great. And so I'll freeze.
Where's the hide function?
So you right-click. So you select your columns, and then you right-click, and you click hide. And then you can do the same and right-click again and unhide. And you can do the same thing with tabs. So if you right-click on the tab, you can hide that tab as well, which is good if you have any formulas or anything that you don't want to, anybody to see when you're passing it around. And then if you click on the B2 cell and you click freeze panes, this way you freeze both the rows and the columns at the same time, which is pretty good. All right, so I'm just going to hide these actually, which I think is just better. So another thing that you can do is use the data validation function so that you are minimizing your data entry errors. So one thing you can do is under, where is it? Data. Data validation, okay. This is looking different than mine. Selection contains some cells with, okay. Do you want to extend the validations? No. All right. So I'm going to just clear all here because I think there's something before. So for instance, we're going to enter females and males, right? And they're coded as F and M. It's important that you're entering the data in a way that is consistent, so you're not entering for some values F and the other values female, because when you come down the line and you're doing pivot tables is going to count F as one thing and females as another thing. So you need to make sure that you're entering everybody as F so that pivot tables can compile that as one single group. So one validation that you can do is text length. And you can say equal to 1. So I just want to make sure that when I enter, okay, it's F. And if I by any chance try to enter as female, it's going to give me an error message. So that makes sure that you're keeping it consistent. Another thing that you can do is drop down menus. And I really like those. So I would start with a new sheet, and I would just call it what it is, drop down list, and I would just come here and say this drop down list is for gender. And this might be more helpful if you have a lot of values or if your values are like long names that you need to type all the time. Here it's not, it doesn't make as much difference, but we can still practice. So these are my two values that will be on my drop down list, and I come down here, I select the tables that the cells that I want to use, and I come on list, and you see that in cell drop down is clicked, and I will go to the source. I'll come to my drop down list, and I'll highlight the values that I want to be in that drop down list, and I'll click enter and OK, and so now I have the values that I want. Another thing that I've used a lot is splitting my file into two windows so that I can see two tabs at the same time. And this also has helped me a lot with data input. So if I click new window under view, I'll be able to see two tabs at the same time. And I can use this one to see the gender tab, and I click on arrange all in vertical. I can now see the two tabs at the same time. And this will help me to, this is very narrow, but it's a little smaller. And I can just enter the values like this. So I've gone from, having to go back and forth or change rows or windows all the time to having everything in the same place. And if you have like 2 monitors, it's even better. But we don't need to do this in everything. But you get the gist. Any questions? Oh, hid everything. And this is how you unhide everything. All right, so question number 2 is merge the drinking information on sheet number 4 into the master sheet. And this is hands down my favorite formula to merge tables. It's the VLOOKUP function. And basically what the VLOOKUP function does is you tell the VLOOKUP function to look at this one value, which is a unique value right there, and you say search on this array for that same value, and you retrieve the second value, so the second column from the unique value that you found, and I want it to be false, meaning it needs to be an exact match. Right? And I've done something wrong. Oh, here. So this is, go ahead. Sure, no problem. No problem.
Sorry.
No problem. All right, let's do that again. And this is like, everything is on a slope here, so my mouse keeps sliding down. All right, so here we go again. So this is the VLOOKUP table to merge values so that you're not copying and pasting things, making sure everything is sorted in the same way. So you go VLOOKUP, you click on the VLOOKUP, and this value here is your unique identifier. This is going to be a unique identifier, either an ID or an ID number that you're going to search in the next tab for that same unique identifier, and you're going to say, for that unique identifier, search on the next column over and retrieve that value. So this is my unique identifier, and I go here, I do comma, and then I look at this table array, and I select all the values possible values that I want, and I'm going to click on Choose, because I wanted to look for the second column over. If the values that I wanted to retrieve are on column C, I would click 3, and then I would click false. And I can't see my formula here, but click false because I want the exact match. Got it? No? What kind of questions do you guys have?
Where did you click false?
False, here. So when you...
So I have those two, like I have A and B columns selected, but I don't, like false doesn't show up in that, like it does like that. Like I have that whole thing, but it doesn't.
Did you do Choose and then you press comma?
It looks like I have the same exact thing, it just doesn't.
It doesn't? What if you try to type false?
Like after the...
Yeah. Does it go through? And then you click enter.
Yeah, I'm having the same problem.
You do?
Yeah. I can get to the two and put a comma, and then you put a bracket type calls, just try typing it, and it doesn't.
Interesting. Okay, let's see if I can do it again. If it might be better. Formula bar. Let's do the formula bar because I think that will be more helpful. If you click equals, so VLOOKUP, and then you open the parenthesis, right? And are you guys having this value underneath? Okay, great. So the first thing that you need to select is the lookup value, right? So you click 1, and then you do comma, and then table array, you click on the tab drink, and you select that whole tab. And you've selected that whole tab, correct? Now you click comma again, and you click the number 2, meaning retrieve one column over. And now you click comma again, and false, meaning I want the same value. You close the parenthesis, and you click enter. And it didn't go through.
I don't know exactly what happened. What's the end result of that?
The end result of that is basically now I have the value for this answer of the drinking question for number 1. I could instead, so this is what, if you didn't use the VLOOKUP table, this is what you would have to do. Drink. You would have to come to this, copy this value, right, and paste it back there. But what you could do is, once you have a lot of values and things are sorted in a different way, or you have multiple values, that will make it really, really complicated. So this is a way to merge 2 tables that are linked through one unique identifier.
So if you were to change a value, let's say in this sheet,
Yeah.
it would change the
Yeah.
value in
Yeah, if I go here, and I come here, now it's a 1. So the formula is alive.
Yeah.
And this is, when you have lots of values, when you don't want to run the risk. And this, basically, you can have this sorted. I have it sorted here 1 through 25, but it might be sorted in a completely different way. Or you might have 2 ones, in one table, and it will just retrieve back that same value for both. So it minimizes the error input from copying and pasting something. And it's a wonderful, wonderful function that the more you use it, the more you get familiar with. But it's really a wonderful trick. And another thing that you need to do is, have you guys worked it out, that?
Yeah.
It worked?
Yeah, thanks.
Great. Another thing that you can do, or you should do, is so you can come here and you can click down, and it'll basically fill in the whole formula for you. You just wait till your mouse does a little black cross, and you click twice, and it will fill it in. One problem with this, though, is that it will keep moving your array 1 row over. So you can see here your array goes from A1 through B26, and that's your array that you want. If you click down here, you can see that your array now is A2 through B27. So it's moving down your array, and you don't want that. You want it to go back to the same original table. So what you do is you come here, and you do a $sign in front of the A, and a $sign in front of the B, and you click enter. So now it's going to be holding your array in place. And that can be used for any formulas that you want to have the same cell held in place. And if you click here now and you fill it back in, and you can triple check, so now it's again A1 through B26. So your array is being held in place. Right? And another thing that I usually do, especially when I'm circulating these tables around, and it's sort of now I think just a pet peeve, I like to copy it and then click and paste special and paste values. So basically I've wiped out my formula. So if I'm sending this around and somebody might have the risk of just messing up my formula or doing something that I don't want, or if I'm just sending this one sheet and I'm not sending the other one, because they're linked, if you send just this one, it will be, error formula. So I like to just copy and paste special and remove the formula.
Can you go over that $sign again?
Sure.
Select the whole cell before you do that?
No, you just, here, let's see. So you just, in between A and 1, and you can enter this right here on your formula line. You can just, right there, like that. Now it's a little annoying. All right, so The next formula is, the next question is combine the questions on drinking and smoking to create a variable called any drinking or smoking. So this was actually something that I had to use a lot in my last internship at Kaiser. I worked at their community benefits department, and I was helping them to look at 127 indicators of community health and trying to combine them in the way that we created one single score for whether the community that we were looking was quote unquote healthy or not. But there was a lot of data that wasn't numeric. They were categorical data. So I had to use an if statement to look at different values and tell me if this is a yes here and a yes here, then give me a yes here. So these are like logic tests that you do. And so we can try to do it here. Very simple, hopefully. And I'm going to just copy and paste and remove this formula because I hate looking at formulas. So my new variable is any drinking or smoking. All right. And remember that the code book says if 1 is a yes, if 2 is a no. So if I'm adding these two variables together, right, I'm combining them. If a person gets a total overall value of 2, what would that mean?
No.
Yes, it would mean that they said yes on both because I'm adding the two values. If they got a 4, it would mean that they got a no on both values. So I'm combining these two values. If they got a 3, it means that they got either a 1 in the first and a 2 in the second, or that they got a 2 in the second and a 1 in the first, right? So these are the range of values that I can have once I combine these. And if you guys are interested in data manipulation, CHS 212 with Linda Borg is great. It's really, really a helpful class to do that. So I will combine these two variables to create into an if statement. So this is my if statement. If, right? If value on the first one plus the value on the second one is equal to 4, what does that mean? It means that they said no to both questions, right? So there was no drinking and no smoking for that person. So my value if true, meaning no for both, is no. There was no drinking or smoking. They scored 4. They said no to both. If my value, if false, is yes. They have said they did drink or they did smoke in one of those questions. And because I'm doing a categorical value there for my logic test and it's not a number, I've put it in between parentheses. If it was a value like 0 or 1, I could do just without parentheses. And so here we know that this person was yes. They drank and they smoked. And it doesn't matter if they had just drank or smoked in one of the questions. The question, the way I framed it here, was any drinking or smoking. And this is a way that you can, and so I can triple check to see if I am selecting the right values. So yeah, this. And because this is going down line by line, I don't really need to hold anything in place, so I'm not using the $ for this formula. And I'm going to copy and paste it to remove the formula. And this was very helpful to me when I was looking at lots and lots of indicators, and I wanted to combine them to say, you know, is this overall, this neighborhood unhealthy by these indicators? And so what I could do is, after I combined all these values, I could filter them, and I could say, you know, just give me the ones that are not healthy. And I could look at the indicators like that. This is the filter function. So under home, and you click filter right there. And this is actually a really good way to catch any crazy mistakes you might have made. Because the filter function right here, it gives you the list of all the potential values that you have within this column. So if for some reason I had also a 0 here that I entered, and I clicked here, I could see. And I could look in my filter and be like, no, there can't be a 0 in this. And I could troubleshoot why that value was entered like that. So that's a really good way. All right, so now we'll move on to pivot tables to be able to summarize this data that we have over here. So what we'll do is insert and click pivot tables, and pivot tables will automatically select your entire data. But it's always good to see where this little line is blinking so that you make sure that you're really selecting what you need.
Sorry, can I do that on the Mac?
On the Mac.
Yeah, you click insert and I also.
We have to go to data.
Data. And what I do is I usually just call this one sheet pivot table, and that's where I'm going to do all my summaries and everything that I need to do. And then I create a new tab where I call it results. And I, like I did before, I paste special, quote unquote. So I just copy the values with no formula. Because pivot table is very dynamic, and if you're sending these results and these summaries to somebody that doesn't know how to work on the pivot tables, they might mess it up again, and you won't have a way, you have to keep redoing this. So the first question, and I'm just going to hide this. My first question was the average GPA by age. All right. So my average GPA by age. So my age will go under the row labels. You can just click on it and drag it down to my row labels. So these are all my ages that I have within my data set from 12 to 17. So now I want to know what's the average GPA by age. Is there one age that has a higher GPA? So I'm going to click on GPA and I'm going to drag to values. Right now it's summing me all the values inside each cell. That's not what I want. So I'm going to click on the sum GPA and value field settings, and I'm going to say average. And so now I have just a quick list of all the ages that I have and all my average GPAs. And what I usually do is I select this, I copy it, and then I paste here. I right click it so that I can just paste the values like this, and I just say age and average GPA. And because I don't like the way this looks, I'm just gonna call it number. And now everything is uniform, right? So my next question was, what was the percentage of students who ever smoked? So we go back to the pivot table, we unclick these values, and we go to smoke, and we click on the row labels again, and now we are going to click on the same variable and put it under values. And we're going to click on value field settings. So right now what it's telling me, it's basically summing all the ones and it's summing all the twos. So I know that there's 14 ones in my data set. But that's not what I want, right? I want to come here in value field settings, and I'm going to click the next tab over, show values as, and the percentage of the column total. So now I know that out of all the students, approximately 40% have smoked, have said 1, which is our yes, right? And 61% has said no, which is our 2.
What percent of or percent difference
From the total. So there is 25 students. Out of those 25 students, 38% have said yes. So it's 40% of 25.
Because it looks weird. Yeah,
I'm still lost on some of smoke. How did you get that?
Sum of smoke? here, I just drag the value smoke down here to the table values. But I don't want to see it like that. Basically, what it's telling me right now, it's saying that it's summing all the ones for this. It's summing these values. So if I come here under master, and I think I selected smoke, right? Okay. So I come here and I select all the ones. There should be a total of 14 ones. So if you come here, there's 14 ones. That's what it's doing. It's just adding up 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. And for twos, there should be 11 because the total was 22. And so it's adding 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 into 22. So that's what this pivot table is doing right now. But that's not the calculation I want them to do. I want them to say, count how many ones there are and divide that by the total of 25. Because that's my percentage of people that have said 1 to that question. Got it? So I come on value field settings, and I'm going to show the values as a percentage of the column total. And it could be the grand total, because in this case I just have one column, so that's my total regardless. So that's my value right there. And I'm just going to, again, Control-C, Control-V. Oh, no, I need a paste special to remove that. And this is smoke. And this is yes. And this is no. And I'm going to put these values as a percentage.
But the no really isn't correct because it should be 11. It should be a smaller percentage. It's not really saying that 61% smoke.
Oh, you're right. That's a good point. Thank you, guys. That's very right. So I can do count. That's right. And now it's correct. Thank you. Thank you all. Sorry about that.
So you're not summarizing by sum anymore, you're summarizing by count?
Yes.
But you still want to do percent of the column?
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you. Sorry about that. See, that's where the healthy paranoia comes from. You're always wrong, pretty much.
Well, it's hard to do things from up there.
Here, I'm just going to delete this. Yeah, you guys are right. All right, so now it looks good. And we can do the same now with drinking. So we just remove these values. And this is, why I like to leave my pivot table like this, that I can just, if my supervisor goes, okay, I like this, why don't you show me this other thing? You can always come here, throw it here, copy special, and have it, the answer, quickly to the person. So now we're going to do drinking row labels. And again, we're going to do count and not sum because I want to count how many values. And then I want to see them as a percentage. And now we have these values.
Can you still wonder why in the first set of data that you copied to the results tab, why row labels was age and values was not age? Is it just because you're asking a different question?
Yes. So in the first one, what I had was age was in my row labels, but the GPA was in my values. So that was a different thing. Because if I was to, I could come here and ask for, just give me a count of how many people. So I know that there's 6 students that are 12. I know there's, 14, one that is 13, and so on. It just really depends on what you're looking for. You could also look at drinking, age and drinking, and see, give me a count. So there's, in my made-up data, there's 6 12-year-olds that have said that they drank, but there's just 2 that have said that they haven't drank, And I can do as a percentage of total, which would, also this case here would be skewed because I have just overall more 12-year-old students to begin with. So you would have to take that in consideration. Another cool thing in this is that you can actually also use the report filter to stratify your variables, your analysis. So I, for instance, just clicked under GPA, and I put it under report filter right there. So if I wanted to see, just for the students that had a really high GPA, how many have drank? Or if I wanted to see just for the students that have a very low GPA, how many of them have drank? So you can do that stratification, let's say, if we had the gender variable completely filled out, to look at the differences in GPA by female versus male, and so on. So that's a trick that you can do. So if we go back to smoking and the values, and we count them, and we also show a percentage of the column total. And copy and paste the results. And I'm just going to put here the 1 means yes, and 2 means no. And this is drinking. Oh, it's still smoking. Oops. Delete this. Go back here. Yeah. Drinking. Okay. And percentage. Right? So now we're going to graph these 3 tables that we created. Actually, no. We're going to graph average GPA by drinking and average GPA by smoking. So here's what you do. You select the drinking, and you put the GPA under your values, but you don't want the sum of them, right? You want the average. So we know that the students that said no to drinking, their average GPA is at 3.0. Students that said yes, their average GPA is at 2.7. Right? I'm going to copy this under results. And I'm going to, this is drinking. This is the average GPA. All right, so to graph this, all we need to do is select the cells that you want to graph and come under Insert. And in this case, you want it to be average of GPA. Okay, yep, that's not what you want it to be. So what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this graph?
It's not comparing them.
Right? It's treating 1 and 2 as if they were numbers, when in reality they're categories, yes and no, right? So one thing that we can do is come here and say yes and no, and graph it again. So now we have, this is the average GPA for yes, and this is the average GPA for no. Looks like it makes more sense now, right?
Where did you go for the graph?
Insert, column. All right. Yes.
It's under charts column on that.
And I think in Apple is a little different. And actually, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that Excel on Apple, it has like 15% less functionality than in Microsoft computers. So I'm usually, yeah, it's really hard for me to work on it on Apple computers. But, because we have 15 minutes left, I think we should try to put this together into a report instead of going through. Or would you guys prefer to do the other two or other two graphs? No? Okay. So fun, right? Excel. It's really fun. Imagine when you need to do this 8 hours a day. It's extra fun. All right. So we can create a new tab and call it report. And I'm a huge fan of tabs. I just like to do that because sometimes, people will do all their work in just one tab and scroll down and you don't know what's going on and formulas mess up and you can't find stuff. And I think tabs is a way to keep everything organized. If you mess up anything, it's easy to just delete that one. If you want to, send this tab somewhere else, you can always right click, and you can basically move or copy. So you can move this whole tab to a new file, or you can create a copy. So it's just a better way to work. So I'm going to hide everything here that I hid. I clicked hide. I'm tired. Sorry. And this is how you unhide everything. I'm just going to remove my filter. So nothing is hidden. And I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to paste it on my report. Oops, wrong place. Paste it on my report. And I'm going to click on this graph. And I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to just put it down here. I'm just going to paste it as a picture because I'm assuming that I'm going to be printing this, and it's just easier so that it's not tied to the original data. And usually when I'm printing things, I don't like to see the grid lines. I prefer to just see it as if it was like a white piece of paper. So you can click on View and unclick grid lines. And what you can do is select everything that you want to be in your table, and you come to page layout, and you can say set my print area, and you can print preview. If you click on this tiny little thing right there, it will allow you to print preview, and you can see how it looks like. So this is pretty okay. What you can do under page layout as well, and it's something that is very helpful, is in case you have a lot of data and you want to keep the title of each column showing up in each of the pages, is rows to repeat at the top. So if you click there and you click right here and you press enter, it will repeat this row over and over again. So you keep the column titles. You can also go under header and footer, and you can do page numbers there. It doesn't need to, look like a boring Excel sheet. And you can click header as well. And you can, there's some options here of what you want to do. Microsoft Confidential, I don't even know why that's the suggested header, but sure. And so those are all options that you have. And you can click print preview, and it doesn't make a difference here, but if you did have a lot of data, it would just repeat that over and over. And, okay. All right, so who wants to do a t-test in Excel? No? Yes? Okay, so I had never done a t-test before using Excel, and I just tried out the first time because who knows if you guys, come up with the difference in the average GPA for drinking and smoking or something, and your supervisor says, well, but is this statistically significant? So this is how you can answer that. So the question is, bonus question, is there a statistically significant difference in the GPA of substance users and non-substance users? So basically what I'm going to do is, these are my two groups, any drinking or smoking, or yes or no, right? So the folks that have used we say substance users for adolescents because any use is not good if you're an adolescent. So it's usually they don't say substance abuse. And then values. And I'm going to click on average again. And so we see that the folks that have said yes to any drinking or smoking have a lower average GPA. We can see that. And the folks that said yes, that have not drank or smoked, have a bigger GPA. So if somebody says, well, that's a great difference, but is it statistically significant? So I know there's probably different ways to do it, but this is the way that I researched and I found how to do it. So I'm going to copy these two columns. And the way I'm selecting these two columns is holding the control button and clicking on the two columns. And I'm going to right click and, okay, cannot be used. Great. Let me see if I can do it like this. That sounds really cool. That's Excel for you guys. So here's my t-test table. So any drinking or smoking is one of the things that I want to look. And the other one is GPA. Right? These are my two variables of interest. So I basically, the way I did it is I sorted them so that I have all the no's together and all the yeses together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and I'm going to copy the no. And I'm just going to select the no variables. And I'm going to click here. So basically I'm splitting this one row, one column into two. My no will go there as one row, and my yes will go here as another one. And I'm just going to copy them. So you can see that I have no's and yeses. And what does a t-test do? Right? The t-test will look at the two means of these two different groups and will tell me if they are statistically significantly different. That's what my t-test will do. So I'm going to click t-test, and it's telling me find my first array. So here's my first array. Find my second array. Here's my second array. And it's asking me whether it's one tail or a two-tail test. Because usually they recommend you to do a one-tail test because it's just more rigorous. It assumes that you know the direction of the relationship between your two variables. In this case, I'm thinking, my hypothesis is that if you have drank or smoked, your GPA will be less or lower than if you have never drank or smoked. So that's the one test. If my hypothesis was that they were just different, and I didn't know the direction, higher or lower, I would do a two-tail test.
You left one of the no's off.
Oh.
Yeah, and it can make a significant difference.
Okay.
I number 8.
Okay. Right here?
Right now, number 7.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's actually very helpful. Thank you. All right. So again, my first array, my second array, one-tail t-test, and then whether it's a paired two-sample, whether you assume there's homoscedasticity. So homoscedasticity is whether you assume that the variance in each of these samples is the same, or if you think that there's a different variance for each of these samples. If for some reason the folks that said no tend to cluster around one value, and the folks that said yes tend to cluster on another value. And if you want to learn more about testing for homoscedasticity, you can take Biostats 406, which is actually not fun, but can be very helpful. So I'm going to assume that there's heteroscedasticity, or actually there's homoscedasticity. There's nothing to lead me to think that these values are clustered particular around one value. And you can do other tests for that.
Is there a way to get the drop down for the type.
For the type.
When you put in the formula for the t-test,
Uh-huh.
on my computer, there's no drop down for under type, so there's no
Oh.
error. So when you hover over type, there's no drop down.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if like it depends on the Excel type or the yeah. I don't know. All right. So this is your p-value. So your p-value is 0.33. So basically what it's saying is that you cannot reject the null. So what would be the null hypothesis in this case? Is that there's no difference, right? The null hypothesis is always there's no difference. So in this case, somebody asks you, is there a statistically significant difference? No, there isn't. You can't reject a null that there isn't. All right? So I've added some additional tips that you can go through. And I think we're going to send out the presentation. And my personal favorites that I've used a lot, including concatenation. It's a great formula. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to email. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.